She was a set and a breakdown. The match looked like it was slipping away. And then something clicked. Not a sudden burst of brilliance, not a lucky break, not the opponent having a bad game at the right moment. Something internal shifted, and Alex started playing differently, and the match turned completely around. The comeback victory over Zheng Qinwen in the first round of the DC Open was one of the most revealing performances of Alex's career to this point, not because of the name across the net or the ranking implications, but because of what it showed about who she is when things aren't going her way. And now, with that battle behind her, she walks into round 2 facing someone who has beaten her before and who knows exactly how to make life uncomfortable. Leylah Fernandez, defending DC Open champion, one of the sharpest tactical minds on the women's tour. A fellow left-hander who won this title 12 months ago and has returned to Washington with every intention of defending it. This isn't a routine round of 16 match. This is a rematch with history attached, and it's worth understanding both the history and the present context before thinking about where this one goes. Let's start with the Zheng match, because it deserves more than a scoreline. Going in, the matchup looked complicated on paper. Zheng was the Olympic gold medalist from Paris 2024, a former world number 4, someone who had been fighting her way back from elbow surgery, and whose current ranking of around 123 massively understated the quality she could produce on her best days. A hungry, motivated player who had nothing to lose and everything to prove coming into a match against someone ranked nearly 100 places above her. That's a dangerous profile. And for a set, and part of second set, Zheng made that danger feel very real. She was serving powerfully, hitting through Alex from a baseline, forcing the Filipina into defensive exchanges where the ball kept arriving heavy and fast and deep. Alex was competing, but not quite controlling. The first set slipped away. And into the second, the pressure kept coming. This is where the story gets interesting. Because a lot of players, facing that kind of sustained pressure from a motivated opponent, start to tighten. The errors creep in. The tactics stay the same even when they're clearly not working. The moment starts to feel bigger than the preparation. Alex didn't do that. She made adjustments. She started reading Zheng's serve patterns more accurately and stepping inside the baseline on returns rather than absorbing from behind the line. She began varying the pace of her ground strokes, mixing the rhythm, taking away the predictability that Zheng needed to time her own shots. She got more aggressive on second serves, treating them as opportunities rather than moments to survive. Gradually, over the course of several games, the match changed. Not because Zheng got worse, because Alex got better in the specific ways the match required. The deficit in the second set was erased. Games started going Alex's way. And by the time the third set was underway, the energy in the stadium had shifted completely. Zheng was the one looking for answers. Alex was the one providing pressure. The final score didn't reflect the full arc of the match because a straight scoreline never does. What it reflected was that Alex had identified what she needed to change, changed it while the match was in progress, and executed the adjusted game plan well enough to win convincingly. That is a specific and valuable skill. It's not common. Plenty of talented players can execute a plan that's working. Far fewer can recognize mid-match that the plan isn't working and build a different one on the fly, under competitive pressure. Alex did it against Zheng. The question the Fernandez match poses is whether she can do it against someone who already knows her game, who has beaten her before, and who is comfortable enough at this venue that the pressure of a defending champion's return feels like an asset rather than a burden. Fernandez won the DC Open title last year by navigating a genuinely tough draw and playing the kind of tennis that makes her one of the most frustrating opponents on the tour. Her game is not built on overwhelming power. It's built on speed, anticipation, extraordinary defensive instincts, and the ability to make opponents hit one more ball than they wanted before the point ends. She chases down balls that look like winners. She redirects pace rather than generating it, turning defense into offense with her footwork and her court sense. She thrives when rallies get long and complex because her conditioning and her shot selection don't deteriorate the way many players do when the exchange extends. She's a grinder in the most complimentary sense of a word. And she's a defending champion. That matters. Not just as a psychological layer, but as practical information about her relationship with these courts and this environment. She knows where the crowd sits. She knows the rhythm of matches at this venue. She knows what it takes to win here because she's already done it, and that familiarity provides a form of confidence that's hard to replicate through preparation alone. Their previous meeting in Stuttgart told a specific story that Fernandez will be looking to repeat and Alex will be desperate to rewrite. Fernandez was dominant in that match. She applied relentless pressure on Alex's serve, stepped inside the baseline whenever a second serve presented itself, and consistently attacked the return game in ways that prevented Alex from settling into the aggressive patterns her own game runs on. She forced the Filipina to defend constantly rather than build, which is exactly the wrong kind of tennis for Alex. When you're defending every point, your weapons don't get used. When the rally starts from a weak defensive position, you're reacting rather than initiating. That's not how Alex wins matches. She wins matches by taking the initiative early and building pressure from a first shot rather than absorbing it and hoping to find the right moment to counter. Fernandez took that away in Stuttgart by making the serve the problem. And this is the central tactical question heading into the rematch. Alex's serve has improved over the past several months. The work at the Rafa Nadal Academy, the guidance from Tony Nadal, and the coaching staff, the accumulated experience of competing at the highest level consistently through 2026, all of it has produced a server who is considerably more dangerous and more reliable than the one Fernandez faced in Stuttgart. But improved isn't the same as solved. Fernandez will arrive in Washington having studied every match Alex has played recently. She'll know the tendencies, the patterns, the second serve that still invites attack. And she'll be looking to exploit them from the very first service game, because getting ahead early against Alex is the single most effective way to prevent the Filipina from imposing her own game on the match. The left-handed dimension adds genuine tactical intrigue that this matchup doesn't get enough credit for. Two left-handers facing each other creates a mirror image dynamic that most players almost never experience. The serve kicks the other way. The cross-court backhand goes to the opponent's forehand rather than the backhand. The angles are different. The patterns that right-handed players expect to use against a left-hander don't apply when both players are serving from the same side. At the elite level, where so much of match preparation is built around scouting and anticipating specific patterns, a left-on-left matchup introduces variables that can catch even experienced players slightly off balance. In theory, this should affect Fernandez more than Alex. Alex has faced far more right-handed opponents throughout her career and has built specific patterns against them. Fernandez has too. When you suddenly have to adjust those patterns because the serve is coming from the wrong side and the cross-court exchange goes the opposite direction, the early games of a match can feel unfamiliar in ways that don't show up on paper but absolutely show up in execution. How quickly each player adapts to that dynamic could define the opening set. Alex will want to establish her forehand down the line early, using it to create width and open up the court for inside-out shots. Against a right-hander, this works predictably. Against Fernandez, the angles shift, and what opens against one type of opponent might close against the other. Both players will be working through this in real time from the opening game, and whoever solves it faster gets the first set advantage, which in a best-of-3 match at this level is enormously important. The momentum question is where the pre-match conversation always arrives, and here it genuinely matters. Alex walks into this match riding the emotional high of a comeback win over an Olympic champion after trailing by a set. That kind of victory doesn't just add points to the tally. It adds a specific kind of belief, the kind that comes from knowing you've been in a difficult match and found a way through it. It confirms that the mental architecture is in place to handle adversity, not just absorb it, but actually use it as a catalyst to play better. Fernandez walks in with a different kind of confidence. The confidence of a defending champion who produced a clean, efficient first-round win that looked exactly how a title defense is supposed to look. No drama. No deficit to overcome, just controlled, purposeful tennis from the first game. Both are valuable. The question is which type of confidence proves more useful when the match gets tight, because against two players at this level, the match will inevitably get tight. There will be a moment in the second set, or in a potential third, where the serve needs to hold, or the return needs to land, or a passing shot needs to find the corner. In those moments, the question isn't about tactics or physical preparation. It's about who trusts themselves most completely. Alex has been building evidence for that trust all season. Every match she's won against a higher-ranked opponent adds to the internal archive she can access in the moments when doubt wants to creep in. She beat Swiatek on center court at Wimbledon. She beat Rybakina and Svitolina on consecutive days in Berlin. She came back from a set down against Zheng in round 1. That archive is substantial and it's recent. Fernandez's confidence comes from a different archive, one that includes winning this specific tournament last year, reaching the US Open final, and accumulating years of professional experience against the tour's best. She's been in tight matches hundreds of times, and she knows what her response looks like when the scoreboard is level late in a deciding set. Both players trust themselves. That's exactly what makes this match interesting. The physical dimension deserves its own attention because it's one of the factors that genuinely separates this match from the first round. Zheng's style, powerful and explosive but relatively straightforward in terms of pattern play, allowed Alex to make clear tactical adjustments once she identified what was needed. Fernandez's style is more complex and more physically demanding precisely because it's built on extending points and making you work for everything. There are no easy games against Fernandez. No service holds that feel comfortable. No long stretches where you're dictating and she's just responding. She finds a way back into rallies that look like they should be over, redirects pace from positions where most players would just defend, and turns the physical endurance of a match into a weapon by remaining just as effective in the third set as she was in the first. For Alex, who is still in her first week back from a demanding grass season, and who already burned significant physical and mental energy against Zheng, the question of how much is left in the tank is legitimate. She made the decision to withdraw from doubles specifically to preserve herself for situations exactly like this one, and that decision is about to be tested. If her fitness holds, the intensity and confidence she's bringing from the Zheng match become pure assets. If the body starts to accumulate fatigue during the long rallies Fernandez specializes in creating, the match could develop in a direction that works against Alex's aggressive instincts and forces her into the defensive tennis she finds least comfortable. The second round of a WTA 500 event might not sound like a landmark moment, but in the context of everything Alex has been building through 2026, a win here would be significant for several reasons that go beyond the ranking points. It would erase the Stuttgart result. It would confirm that the improvements in her game aren't just visible against lower-ranked opponents, but are real enough to change outcomes against players who have specifically beaten her before. And it would put her in the quarterfinals of the DC Open as a legitimate contender rather than a run-good story, which would change how the rest of the tournament talks about her, and how opponents in later rounds would have to prepare for her. Fernandez knows all of this too. She knows that losing to Alex in round 2 would be a specific kind of defeat, the kind where the player you beat in Stuttgart comes back to the same tour with improvements and beats you with them. That's a result that sends a message, and Fernandez will be working hard in practice and in her tactical preparation to make sure the message doesn't get sent. What this match comes down to when you strip away the tactical analysis and the historical context and the ranking implications is two left-handers who are both capable of winning it, who both have genuine reasons to believe they can, and who are going to make each other work for every single point from first to last. That's the best kind of tennis match. The one where the outcome genuinely isn't obvious. The one where you have to watch to find out. Alex has the momentum. Fernandez has the title. And the court will decide which of those things matters more on this particular day. Whatever happens, the fact that this matchup exists at all, that Alex is in the second round of the DC Open as a genuine threat to the defending champion, rather than just a name in the draw, tells the story of where her career is right now better than anything else could. A year ago, this matchup would have had a clear favorite, and it wouldn't have been Alex. Today it doesn't. And that's the whole story of 2026 in one match.